back to the P1 Superstock Grand Prix of the Sea. As I said earlier, this is the toughest race of the year on the crews and the boats.
And now let's have a look at the course the crews are racing today, and it needs a careful study because it's rather different to the usual 2-mile layout they've raced on so far this year. It's 10 times longer, and it really is preparation intense. There's no substitute for chart time. They'll all have done their navigational homework and prepared the boats for these really tough conditions.
We've raced in a couple of bays, we've raced on a couple of rivers, and now we're properly out at sea.
You're in probably some of the busiest waters in the world.
Getting the navigation right is key, because if you go the wrong way, you can lose 10 miles.
It can be a very confused sea out in the Solent, and then Poole Bay is notorious for big rollers.
It's going to be a real test of endurance of the boat, ourselves.
It's real survival of the fittest crew.
And finding the smoother water to get the speed, so you've got many more variables in the race.
And it's not a case of actually probably getting your boat home the fastest, but get your boat home in one piece and across the finish line. And obviously a bit quick.
Before that, some extra entertainment for the crowd. 17-year-old Jack Moole, currently one of the best freestyle jet ski riders in the world. He'll be competing at the World Championships in the USA in a couple of weeks' time, where he obviously hopes to become champion. So, we wish him luck, and we'll keep you posted on his progress here on P1 Superstock. A one-make series like this can only be completely even-handed with a single engine supplier, one who's happy to put the product in the toughest showcase of all, like this weekend.
It was a long process to start with. We were introduced by one of our dealerships who's heavily into racing, and there we met Robert Wicks, and then the snowball started to gather momentum.
No qualifying, no match races. Just a big event ahead, 2 laps of that daunting course for the longest and toughest race of the year. And though the champions-elect may look pretty cool, calm and collected, some of the crews are taking on this sort of thing for the very first time. Or at least some of the crew members are.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about P1 Superstock, it's because it's very different. It's more of a mini endurance race for us. Most of the teams are used to the tight circuits. I've done this race twice before and in really rough conditions, and I like it because it's more of a challenge.
This is my first ever race, so I have nothing to compare to, but I mean, it should be fun. It's a lot longer than circuit races, but I don't know what to expect.
They're mustering at the start now, trying to gauge the water, but it's a long course. The furthest buoy 20 miles from here, with the mixed swell of the Solent on the outward leg and the notoriously rough waters of Poole Bay on the way back. This race will be unlike anything else this year, and as we've heard, keeping everything together is the first priority, and that may not be so easy. Coming up to the start though, positions taken at random, but it's a perfect formation. Both classes together now, but just watch the P1 Panthers make the break. When it goes green, this one will be all about power, using it well and getting the navigation right.
Gets a good heading.
And they're heading out on this 8-mile run through the roughest waters on the course. The needle's off to port, and the first turn at 2 buoys somewhere dead ahead, and already the Panthers surging ahead. This is Martin Colligan and Liam McDermott in Team Fox. A good finish might help them up the championship ladder, but there's a long way to go before they can think like that. John Wilson and Neil Scarborough lead in per temps, Edox second, Helvetia Well third, and this looks like problems for Andy Wilby and Johnny Elbert in Typhoon. It looks fairly terminal. But as Typhoon drops back, the leaders are streaking away.
Edox hooked it, okay? Okay, good. Come right slightly, 5 degrees, John. Okay.
Good instructions from Neil Scarborough, navigating John Wilson towards that unseen buoy somewhere out there on the water at over 30 knots. And you can see how hard it is to keep the boat in the water, and you can see the shocks it's taking, bouncing from crest to crest. trimmed absolutely flat, with the pilots doing a great job of balancing the boats for the conditions. Championship leader Pertemps pulling away from Edox as it slows and stops in the water. Well, here's the penalty for being more aggressive with the throttle. Rupert Pugh and Anthony Crossley flying Edox, a real hard impact, so nearly so much worse. Pertemps streaking past as they slow to assess the damage. And back on it again, and that was a lucky escape. Look how far out of the water it got, so nearly backflipped. Rupert Pugh really pushing it to the limit, and if you want to know how strong these boats are, there's your answer. Look how hard this is, even when nothing goes wrong.
Heading okay? Perfect. Big one. What? That's the highest we've been? Yep. And again. Right, that got again, John. I know it's hard to steer. Big one.
You can hear how hard Neil Scarborough and John Wilson are working, and that goes for everyone else as well. It looks smooth and silky on TV, but the reality is a lot more brutal. Peters and May nearest us. Nick Daly looking flat and faster behind. Here's Shelley, Jory Lee and Dan Smith. Endurance racing, tough for women anyway, but Shelley's still not fully fit after a huge accident in Sardinia last year.
Good. Keep going, keep going. Retired. Keep going. You're on course. Come right a little bit. That's it. Keep the boat in one piece and we'll be laughing. Okay, I'm trying.
Dan Smith telling her not to linger after slowing to make sure the crew are okay, but you can see they're waving to let her know.
Good. Oh, that hurt. You alright? Yeah, that really hurt. Sorry, mate. Oh, big one. Yeah. Oh. And again. And again. Oh! And again. You alright? You need me to stop?
That's the kind of battering they're taking, and that's what brought them to a halt. Darren Hook here, drafted into the Peters and May boat alongside David Harwood, has lots of good offshore experience, and he's using it to get a run on Simon Bales and Philippa Baker in Team 88. The water is flatter here. Now they've turned across the mouth of Poole Bay and they're heading towards Swanage. And there might be more for the crews to do than just hang on tight and keep it pointing in roughly the right direction.
Heading okay? Perfect.
And that's exactly what it is. The championship leaders quite literally on course for another win. Here's the P150 battle, still in the much rougher waters on the run out to the turn at Two Boys, and you can really see how much the shorter length of these boats gives them a much bigger challenge in these conditions. And here's that all-female crew, and you can see how physical this is and how sheer strength is a key ingredient of success in these conditions. Every landing is a hard one. Black Magic, Vincent and Jade Berridge, and ironically it can be harder on the navigator because he or she can't anticipate the impacts like the pilot can and has no wheel to brace themselves with. Sarah Curitan in Team Purple just has to sit there and take it and give Stuart Curitan the right call on navigation round a 35-mile course. This just isn't easy, even though he, like the other P150s we've seen, seems to have the trim and balance well set, but it's just rougher than it looks. Rounding out into the calmer waters as they make their turn to the west and face into the wind will smooth the ride for them, but it's never anything but rough out here, even on a fine sunny day when the weather is calm. We're a good 10 miles offshore as the course turns towards Old Harry, and you can contrast that with the normal races when they're just a few hundred metres off the beach to see how different and unique this weekend really is. 08 is Team Fox, this is Eclipse, and there's a battle royal here for the lead of P150. But there's no battle at the front of the Panther 250 class because Pertemps has stopped in the water. Another victim of the tremendous battering this race dishes out. Everything's double bolted and triple tie wrapped, but to no avail. The Peters and May boat, almost like a different part of the country. The water's so different. And from up here, it looks as though Helvetia Wealth has got the edge on Team 88 despite the wider line, and so it is. Second place for Shelley Jury Lee and Dan Smith. The P150s are on the home run as well, and they'll have been told that the race distance has been shortened. This is going 1 lap and not 2, so this is the battle for the win, not the flag, and it's happening in both classes, P150 and P1 Panther 250. It's Darren Hook and David Harwood who lead the big boats home then. And we just caught a glimpse of Shelley Jury Lee and Dan Smith, not too far behind them. Team Purple are running third in P150. But here's the Peters and May boat still strong in the lead, heading home for a win that will spoil Pertemp's unbroken string of victories, but won't affect their championship. Team 88 is second in the points, but will finish this race behind Peters and May, which is third in the points. So that does mean that an awful lot will depend on the final race in Liverpool in a couple of weekends' time. It's all to play for still. This is Aztec Racing, piloted by Azam Ali, who made his Aquacross debut this weekend as well. Second place, first time on the podium after an injury that threatened her career. Should make Shelley Jury Lee very happy, running in with the needles in the background, heading back towards Hurst Castle. And here's Pertemps, well down after mending a throttle cable in these seas, but fourth place could be vital to the championship. Team 88, Simon Bales and Philippa Baker, they will get third, and this is the calmest part of the race. The organisers have made a brave and a wise decision to cut it short and reduce it by 50%. And these two think this is the battle for victory, but there are penalties in the win because Eclipse and Team Fox seem to have cut inside one of the marker buoys, and that will drop them right down the leaderboard, but they don't know that. And just look how close they are after an hour of racing in these tough, rough seas, literally neck and neck, side by side as they race for the line. They know it's the finish line and not the end of the lap, but they don't know about the possible penalties. So they cross the line together, and that really does underline the whole point of a one-make championship like this. How much closer could they be? Results time for the P1 Panthers. No penalties here, just a great recovery by Pertemps, a fantastic return to the podium for Helvetia Wealth, and a superb victory for Peters and May.
Well, new to the Peters and May boat this weekend, David and Darren, and a win, guys. You made that, just your own.
Yeah, no, it's a good race. I mean, we was in the pack for the first leg. It was quite lumpy the first leg. There's boats all over the place, and then we sort of got a bit of clear water and had the legs on people, I think, and just got away from them.
Has it changed the leaderboard? Not really, though the Pertemps margin is small enough to be overturned at the final round when we get to Liverpool. And in P150, it's nothing but good news for Team Purple. 4 rounds, 4 maximum scores, and though they too will have to go to Liverpool for a decision, this really does give them a pretty unshakable grip on the title. No wonder they're happy with it.
Stuart, a fantastic result for you.
Yeah, it's a good result, but it's not the way we would have liked to have won it.
Talk us through a bit of the controversy out there.
Well, apparently we didn't see it, but the other 2 teams that came in before us actually missed a mark, so have taken a penalty for that, and that puts us to the front. So we've won by default, but who knows whether they would have been that far up front if they had taken the mark. Don't know. I suspect they probably would have been, but it's just the way it is.
Here are the points then, and with 4 rounds out of the 5 completed, it all looks fairly convincing for Team Purple, but that could be tempting providence.
Well, despite very difficult conditions out on the water, a fantastic weekend, and great to see Shelley back on the podium this time round. That's it from us here in Cowes. We'll see you next time when we'll be in Liverpool.
That's it.